Abrams. Welcome back to Old Wrestling fans. After a little brief hiatus, due to the things. No, we did not leave you. We did not forsake you. We are back. Welcome to our second long-awaited episode of the Ring Psychology Podcast 2.0. The Enforcer AA is here with you in the building. Of course, my co-host, the one and only Mr. JP. And we do have a guest, as you can see in our screen. We have Mr. Brian Bertrand, a.k.a. Maverick. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing awesome, and Josh just cloned himself all of a sudden. That's weird.
Why do I have two?
We have no idea.
What is going?
There it goes.
Why is there a second?
Well,
Oh, that's so
anything
weird.
can happen. But
Live
tremendous lot of things going on across the wrestling world. But there's something I did want to touch on real quick. If you haven't seen it, I don't know how long it's been out, but I just saw the trailer to Iron Claw. And for those that don't, that talks about the tragedy that is the Atkinson, aka Von Erich family, which of course Zac Efron is playing the role of the sole surviving Von Erich, Kevin. I know for me, I grew up a huge Von Erich fan. Thanks to ESPN. ESPN used to air world-class championships, so on and so forth. So I got early exposure as a kid to, the Von Erichs Freebird rivalry, which was huge, that got their start in the historic Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas. Of course, Steve Austin, The Undertaker, and so forth. So it's a lot of rich history. We talk about the Sportatorium. So I would suggest, if you haven't seen the trailer, go watch it. Like I said, I was a huge unfortunately. Everybody talks about the 1986 accident, which run as the NWA World Champion. A lot of people don't talk about Kerry's accident that happened also in the year of 86, where he lost his right foot and continue to civil service, and go check it out. It'll be in theaters on December the 22nd.
Oh, it's coming out on my birthday. Interesting.
It looks really good. Zac Efron, if you want to see like a perfect clone of the Von Erich look, like if you want to see a perfect clone of Kevin Von Erich, Zac Efron's pictures throughout like the year have been amazing.
Did he got plastic surgery? Did he not?
I have no idea, but from the photos that I've seen of him, like shooting that movie, it's dead on. Like it's scary dead on.
That's why I was looking at it going, did they put prosthetics on him, or did he actually get plastic? I'm pretty sure I read somewhere or saw somewhere that he actually got that plastic surgery done on his chin. Not
He's
specific.
got that perfect jawline, yeah.
Yeah, but it's thick. It's not like, it's almost like it's. But that's what I know. He didn't do it for the role, but it just kind of seemed to work out in the look that he has. I mean, not just from the neck down, but he almost like inadvertently made himself Kevin Von Erich.
Well,
Go ahead, Doug.
It's like you're really looking at another reincarnation version of Kevin Von Erich. It really does. Now, when I first saw the pictures in the role of Kevin, but I mean, I don't care if I'm the only person in the theater. I will go watch it because it's a part of my childhood, and of course, like,
yeah, that being, so it's
like
one
I
of
grew
those.
up on the Freebirds, Von Erichs.
Yep, here it goes.
Yeah, there it goes.
You'll hear him kind of come in and out at this point now.
But yeah, like it was just
Fans, we
after.
apologize for the choppiness. We're trying to work through these technical difficulties.
Yeah, and for the Von Erichs, they were just before my time. Like I grew up on the hype of Hulkamania and the Rock and Wrestling Connection and stuff, and I never was able to watch much of the ESPN and stuff, but I knew the history, I knew the tragedy behind it over the years, and seeing something like that, if you came into wrestling late, more recent, and you want to know more about the history of how today's wrestling was shaped, this is going to be the movie you're going to want to watch. Legit, it's there's no substitute for that.
No, for sure. You always hear this cliche. You can't you can't tell the story about this certain thing without talking about this certain person. And the Von Erich family is definitely on that list of you can't talk about the history of pro wrestling without talking about the Von Erich family. Not just the tragedy of what happened, but what they did during their time
when they were really going. Yeah,
they again with the Freebirds and everybody else like that. It was at a time they were ahead of their time, and it's weird because so many crazy things happen in pro wrestling in that community, whether it's drug abuse, alcohol abuse, an accident, in the ring, with Owen Hart, um, and you just see all these problems and stuff like that these professional wrestlers go through. We all know the schedule isn't easy. 300 plus days a year. It's and this is just WWE. We're not even talking independent circuits as well. How much those guys work. The schedule itself, and then what you do to your body
every time,
every single day, sometimes twice a day. They talk about in pro football, with CTE and head injuries and everything else like that. Well, that kind of stuff is prevalent in pro wrestling. And the thing with these guys in pro wrestling is they are all, and I'm talking about women and men here, they are all so tough that something can happen to them, whether it be they get knocked out cold, uh, ruptured, tendons, torn ligaments, broken bones, all that other kind of stuff. 9 times out of 10, and it's actually kind of rare that you see they don't finish the match, regardless of what happened to them. Now, at times, again, it's very rare to see because a lot of these wrestlers, and that's one of the things about pro wrestling, the awe and the lure of it. You're supposed to go into it, with a suspended, belief about everything. So what's happening in the ring? Sometimes you can't tell. Is he selling it? is this real? Because there are plenty of times where we think, holy shit, that was real. And it was sold, expertly. So it's just at this moment of time right now where you look at everything that goes on to the wrestling community, and then you look back at the Von Erichs, because their tragedies were pretty much everything that you can describe tragedies that have happened in the professional wrestling world, that happened to that family.
And not only that, but during that era, there was less safety precautions involved. You want to talk about people getting addicted to opioids and painkillers. This was them 24/7 with all this. Through all the injuries that they sustained through every match they put themselves through, they had it to where it was the 70s. They didn't have all of the kind of like safety precautions that you see today with independent wrestling and with mainstream wrestling. They had stiff rings. They didn't have the springs underneath the rings or any of the mats or anything. They were all hardwood, cement floors, steel guardrails, and all that. And there was less of an oversight for that. So it led to them sustaining more injuries and having bigger matches to sustain those injuries. And it made for a different kind of wrestling, a different kind of toughness that came out of it. And when we talk about that, I go back to the trailer and how they say, Mama protected us from church, Daddy protected us with church, Daddy protected us with wrestling. I think about that and say that kind of mindset gives so much perspective on how professional wrestling was going at the time. Because these guys were, you hear these stories from all these legends, people getting stabbed, people getting attacked and mugged and all that. And hell, they're just going to
watch Dark Side of the Ring, people.
Yeah, watch Dark Side of the Ring. They'll talk about it. They're going to bars, getting into fights and all that. That's wrestling. That's the wrestling that we have grown up on. And to see it now evolve from those barroom brawls to now where it's becoming more of an athletic competition, it seems like, that we have this new product today in its new booming period. We don't get that with anything else. And that's the crazy thing about professional wrestling that I absolutely love.
Yeah. It's always something that has evolved through the times. It's been for the better.
And you talk about barroom brawls and stuff, and of course, the Bruiser Brody getting stabbed in Puerto Rico. That comes to mind because he was a part of WCCW, all the wars that he had with Abdullah. Of course, you heard, as JP mentioned, when Tony Atlas was telling his side of the story and how Dutch Mantell said that something just felt uneasy when they got to the stadium. And that's why it took a long, long time for a mainstream promotion to even go back to have an event in Puerto Rico, because what a lot of people don't know is wrestling in Puerto Rico is a hotbed. You go back to the last time that the WWE was there back in the mid 80s. It was sold out in the rain.
Yep.
That's
how crazed Puerto Ricans are for the sport.
We saw how they were with Backlash this year too, when they first had the pay-per-view there. How crazy that was probably one of the hottest crowds that I've heard in a long time. Yeah.
Yes.
They were definitely they were on a whole another level, and that's where I think Puerto Rico, what they ended up doing, and I kind of noticed this through every live event after that. If they are outside of the States for a pay-per-view, either in London or everything, like since Puerto Rico, every one of those crowds for a live event has been absurd on how hot the crowd is, singing along with the music, doing all just the complete and total aura of professional wrestling, because again, the match doesn't really go without the crowd. If the crowd isn't feeling it, if the crowd isn't hot, it ain't gonna work. But that's where
they will tell you.
Yeah,
they will let you know.
No problem letting you know.
This is boring.
And you saw this. You saw this in at full display during the pandemic when they took out the crowd, before they were doing Thunderdome. Hell, during Thunderdome, you didn't have the crowd noise. They were fighting with their own echoes at that point. That's why when AEW was going through the pandemic, they had their own roster members sitting out in the basically ringside, because you need to have that crowd noise to keep that energy up, because the less crowd noise you get, the less kind of energy gets into the match, and it plays such a pivotal role. And that's why, like, that's why you heard them try and pipe in the crowd noise with random static and recorded sounds from the video games, because you with that feeling, with that atmosphere, it goes a very long way.
And I had thought about it too, because during the pandemic, that first WrestleMania during the pandemic, when there was nobody there, I remember watching it going, man, some of these matches, if there was a crowd here, this crowd would be going ape shit for this. Well, it would be nuts.
Look at it this way. When Drew McIntyre had his moment defeating Brock Lesnar, just think about how huge the pop would have been if you're in an arena, because I go back to the Royal Rumble before the shutdown when Drew eliminated Brock, and you heard the pop from the crowd in the baseball stadium, because I mean, Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton basically carried WWE through the pandemic. They were the two biggest guys that carried the pandemic, and then eventually that's when Roman started his reign that he's on now. But it's a shame, because Drew paid his dues, put in the work, what he was hyped up to be, and then kind of was humbled, went to Impact, came back, had his run with the title. It's sad and unfortunate that he didn't have the crowd participation to give him the big payoff, if you will, for lack of a better term, which, it sucked. But I mean, I just think about, moments like that.
Do you think it's possible that if, let's say, because I kind of agree, after that run, where he won at WrestleMania, breaking the fourth wall, telling everybody, thank you, love you, all that other kind of stuff. It was after that, it kind of, the excitement around the title reign kind of wasn't there. So, and then now he's mid-card guy now, fighting Intercontinental Championship and, tag team championships and stuff like that now. Do you guys think that if that WrestleMania, whether the pandemic happened or not, but if that WrestleMania specifically, where Drew McIntyre won the title, actually had a crowd and it got the reaction that we probably know that it was going to have, would WWE have looked at it and go, shit, we could probably go a little bit farther with this guy? But because of the lack of crowd, and you don't really have, because I'm sure, Vince and Triple H, well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but a lot of the decisions that they make will come from how you are able to work a crowd. Your opportunities will come more and more and more with how you're able to work a crowd. So because Drew didn't necessarily have that crowd during his run, there wasn't really that odometer for them to look at going, oh, what can we really do with this guy? How far can we really take this? So do you guys think if he would have had a crowd there, we'd be looking at a completely different story?
Yeah.
I think so. And I think what we got felt like Big E's World Championship run when Big E held the title. It felt it didn't feel as impactful. It didn't feel as memorable. Hell, I barely forgot that that year Drew McIntyre won the WWE Championship from Brock Lesnar, and that was wild. And I mean, but it happened. But but yeah, if he had the belt, his title reign would have at least doubled.
Yeah,
I mean, heck,
I was thinking about it too. He was on a pretty hot run.
You can almost say the same thing about Kofi and his run. I mean, as great as the buildup was, and I
don't like the way his run ended.
That run was run was bad.
Neither do I. I mean, hell, Ron Simmons got a better run when he won the WCW World Title back in '92. But I'm just saying that the build up to Kofi facing Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, whichever name you want to call him, and then the payoff, and you saw how engaged the crowd was when he got the pin at WrestleMania 35, and just the whole wherewithal to it. It left lacking after that. And I agree with what Maverick said. I mean, Big E, he paid his dues, got the build up, but then it was like he became... There's no question the WWE Championship has become second fiddle to the Universal Championship. I think that is a fair assessment. I think that's a fair statement to make. I mean, obviously, there's not... the Universal title has lineage, yes, but it doesn't have the lineage that the WWE title has, because we're going back to the days of San Martino, Morales, Hogan. The list goes on and on and on and on. However, there have been some reigns to where you're just like, what are we doing here? Because when Diesel had his reign, really wasn't much money at the gate per se.
I try to wonder, reigns. Especially
great matches, but not.
Yeah, I'm trying to wonder, especially with Kofi and Big E, because to me, there's a difference between a champion and a bridge champion. A bridge champion is just somebody there who, you hold it for, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months at best. And, for the real guy to come in and do his thing. And then now the real championship reign is kind of coming up. That's, in a way, the payoff on how everything kind of went down. That's how it felt like. They got, or at least for Kofi, because they got the feel-good moment at WrestleMania. With everything that was going on, with racial issues and everything that was going on at that point, they got the payoff at WrestleMania, but a couple of months later, gets absolutely squashed and throttled by Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, a squash match.
It was, to me, going like...
On your premiere SmackDown on Fox.
It seems pretty insulting to me that they would have done that in such quick fashion that they did, because it told me that this company is not worth watching full time anymore. It told me that they don't have any reliance on the people that they have, that they're willing to make a phone call, sign Brock Lesnar to another part-time contract to take the title. That's all it's been. And having him lose in what felt like 30 seconds of just getting destroyed by Brock Lesnar, it felt very, very. I don't want to say insulting, but it felt very bad for anyone that had any faith in WWE having like a champion like Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, that whole run, like I said, it felt like there was a slight like buzz around. Like I felt like Kofi was a good champion. He was doing all the right things, the connection with the kids, the connection with the crowd. That was all there. For me, I thought when he was going up against Brock Lesnar, I thought, now when that matchup happened, being completely honest, at no point did I think Kofi was going to win the match. I thought they were going to give it to Brock and then, move on from there. I kind of knew that was going to happen. But at least let him go out with a decent match. At least let him, putting up a fight, going like, man, at least Brock Lesnar won, but at least Kofi put up a fight. At least they put on a good, 15, 20-minute match. Not 30 seconds later, done and over with. Pack it up. Let's go home.
You make it look like this. I'll go back years earlier. Sting's second reign as world champion in WCW when they put him with Vader, and they first had their program at the Great American Bash in '92. Vader did a fantastic job making Sting look like a hero, giving him a valiant effort, and just came up short, which also led to their classic at Starrcade '92 in the King of Kemo match, which also led to one of the best strap matches you will ever see that happened at Super Bowl III. Yes, obviously, Sting's greatest rival is Ric Flair. Flair put him on the map, no question. But I think people keep forgetting how credible Sting made Vader and enhanced him, but also at the same time how Leon White enhanced Sting by making him look good, falling up short. Your credit, they just, in a sense, squashed Kofi and basically put him back to being a mid-carder, almost kind of having going back to be a comic book character again, as he is in this particular run right now with Xavier Woods. And I mean, yes, the New Day has done great things for the kids, bootios, pancakes, whatever you want to call it. But, for guys like us that have, watched it practically all our lives and have been there from the golden era to the attitude era to the ruthless aggression era to, what it is now, you feel like, okay, it's kind of played its course. It's like you want to see Kofi kind of go back on his own again and go back to him dropping the boom per se. But, because, him and Xavier have a good chemistry. And of course, like we say, it's all for the kids, which is one reason why, one reason, even though I think he should go heel, but that's one reason why Drew won't go heel is because of the stuff he does for the kids. Same reason why John Cena didn't go heel for all those years.
For a long time, yeah. I was thinking, especially with the New Day, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but a part of me feels, because again, this was one of the longest running tag teams that I've seen in a long time. They've been going hand in hand forever. And I have been counting down the days wondering, all right, who's going to turn on who? Is Big E going to turn on him? Is Kofi going to turn on him? Is Xavier Woods going to turn on him? What is going to happen here with this team?
But you know what?
But
when they have the draft and when they got separated, you have no idea how much of us was singing happy, happy, joy, joy, and then all of a sudden they're back together again. What? Why? Like what? Why?
I think
like I'll tell you right now.
I think a part of it has to do, if they break up the New Day, they have nothing for Xavier Woods.
No, they don't.
If they break up the New Day, if they break up the New Day, I guarantee you, Xavier Woods will be on the next chopping block of exits and exodus that's going to happen in the WWE.
I can't have that happen. I cannot have that happen. As far as anyone in WWE goes, I feel that New Day. I feel that Xavier Woods in particular. I think you're right though. Like they won't have a damn thing for him to do. But I've always said that New Day is the best thing to happen to WWE in terms of marketing and relatability that they could have done. Any program you want to do with kids, they should be the first ones every single time. You could take out the bootios, you could take out the odd shit they put in there, but when you want to do something straight up for kids, Xavier Woods is always going to be on hand for that, but you have to do it. But he always does it better when you have Kofi and Big E on there, because all three exude the same amount of energy, the same amount of charisma, and not only that, but like they put on some good matches. Like they're really good freaking wrestlers. Like and that's what I feel that a company like WWE should always have in their chamber at all times is a reliable number of wrestlers that can band together, become that single unit that New Day has become. New Day was such a stupid gimmick when they first started. It was like some dumb motivational heel gimmick. It was so stupid, but my God, it evolved.
Was not a fan of them. I was not a fan of the New Day.
I remember the skits they did.
She says Big E gyrating way too damn much.
The New Day.
But when they evolved,
it's still too much for me. But
when they evolved, it became such a great. It became like a whole new attitude of approaching with wrestlers and all that. And then Xavier Woods not only does that, but he took that sort of feeling and made Up, Down, Down, his YouTube channel, into one of gaming YouTube's best channels of all time. It's produced by WWE. They do all kinds of games with it. I
was going to get to that going. I think Up, Down, Down is. I hate to say it because I like Xavier Woods. I think he's a great talker. I think he'd be a good mouthpiece for somebody, like a good manager or something like who gets involved at least to find something for him to do outside of the New Day. But I think
he'd be perfect. He'd be perfect for the booth.
He's only around because
play guy.
Yeah, he's only around because those up, down, down numbers are pretty fucking up there, and that's a cash cow that WWE's not going to want to get rid of.
No. And I think at any time and at any time they'll put Big E back with them, no problem. I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. I think with everything going on in Woods and Kofi's sort of thing as a tag team, that doesn't feel like it's gonna last. But considering how much they're gonna do New Day, I think they're gonna do, especially with this merger, especially with TKO in charge. I think that with that, they're gonna want something to bring in a younger audience, and of course they have New Day there, so that would be like the way to go, I think.
Yeah, they could do a repackaging a little bit with them. It doesn't need to be too childish. They can upgrade it a little bit. You know, I thought they would have been. Now, this is no disrespect to Street Profits whatsoever. I think what they did with them going to the Hurt Business was a good move. But I kind of thought the New Day joining the Hurt Business would have been a complete, and that's why I go by repackaging. They go from these fun-loving, everybody, bootios, pancakes, all that other kind of stuff, to heel. We're not getting the respect we deserve doing what we've done, and see kind of where it goes from there. That's where my head went with it. Could have thought, again, with Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, Big E being the three good talkers, good in-ring performers, them and Bobby Lashley together could have maybe done a little something. But again, that's just my whole process. Again, I like what the Street Profits are doing with them right now. I like the team where it's at. I'm just saying before that became a thing, I had thought to repackage the New Day in some way, shape, or form to go back into that heel mode, join the Hurt Business. You know, you want to talk about something that's a complete 180 from what you were doing before, and something that I'm sure the fans would kind of look at and go, "What the hell is this?" Like this, like it's something that would be completely flipped on them. And again, instead of like Maverick was saying when they first got in that the heel motivational tactics and stuff like that, instead of it being a little bit more comedic, it becomes a more serious business tone to it. So, I mean, that's just how I saw it, but we can all agree to disagree because I'm looking at Maverick and he's going, that sounds like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
You can't make New Day heels. There's no way. They're too much. They're too happy. They're too upbeat to be heels at all. And even if you can turn them into heels, it doesn't last. Go ahead, Dub.
No. I agree 1000%. But you kind of push us to this topic. So while we were away, the merger did complete between Endeavor, UFC, and the WWE for, if I'm correct, this $21 billion, which now means that Vince McMahon is not doing creative. That's all Triple H. Dana White has shifted from the role of president to chief executive of the UFC. So now that Endeavor has added TKO, which is now the new production company or the new group that you want to call it, TKO Group Holdings. How do we feel about it? What do you think is going to transpire from it? Is it as business as usual per se, or what? Well, I mean, obviously there have been some changes because there have been some more layoffs, obviously, that has come from this. Let me get your guys' thought on how you feel about this merger now being completed as this was completed last month.
Matt, go ahead.
Okay. I think as far as both companies go, I think it was the right time for it. Both UFC and WWE are at that same level of exposure, of mainstream connection, to do something like that. But at the same time, you saw how WWE's been floating, has been trying to keep themselves afloat ever since basically AEW started. The Wednesday Night War didn't go their way. They've been having to counter program. They've moved everything around to get that going. And then at the same time you had them go through the whole bloodline angle and getting all of these other areas set, but you saw a bit of a decline in terms of I guess reported revenue. But I think with both UFC and WWE being the top promotions of their respective fields, I think a merger like this makes total sense for them. It'd be great if it was just wrestling companies that, were doing that. But I think as a business, I think that the added revenue, the new changes, of course, with Vince McMahon out of creative, with everything going to Triple H, where Vince McMahon is going to be somewhat of a figurehead. Personally, I think it's nothing but good for WWE as a company itself. With Triple H, and it's been reported too. Triple H has done a great job doing creative ever since he was doing NXT. So having him at the helm, I think is going to be amazing for WWE, especially during a time like this.
Triple H completed the process. He married into it and took over the company.
Or should we say,
but
the Synthé, man, look at the Synthé with that mustache.
So I looked at this merger because
I just can't get you.
I'm kind of like Maverick. It was something that I felt that was kind of a long time coming, especially when you had kind of those cross promotional things, come in. Brock Lesnar was obviously that, in the UFC, in the WWE, they had Cain Velasquez for, a cup of coffee. Ronda Rousey, coming in, just that kind of banter back and forth that they have between. So it was kind of one of those things that I thought it makes sense considering the crossover promotions and stuff like that they've done before in the past. Now, when it came to Vince McMahon getting essentially canned, maybe not fired, but like from creative purposes,
pushed aside.
Yeah, I think creatively, this is going to be
pushed aside because of some stories going on.
You talked about the revenue not being accounted for. We know why, and that's one of the reasons why Vince ain't there. So it's when I looked at the creative aspect of this whole thing, and what made me excited about it was because, like you said, what Triple H did with the original NXT was that I would much rather watch NXT over anything else at that time. NXT was just bigger than life. It was ridiculous what they were doing there. The matches that they were putting on they just let him go. They just let him go. Triple H has that mindset of there's a time and place for the time structure and everything, but then there's also a time and place where match is big enough, you fucking let them go. 45, 30, 45 minutes, however long it is, let them go. Just let them do their thing. And that's how you came up with these classics in NXT that they tried to replicate on Raw and SmackDown and miserably failed at it. Vince,
he took the mantle from Dusty. Because obviously Dusty was teaching that when it was Dusty's thing, which of course him working side by side with Dusty. I mean, we can do a show about how Dusty is one of the greatest minds of all time in business, if you will, here on the mothership. But after the
super station, baby.
Past, because I mean, first off, when you can convince Shawn Michaels to move from San Antonio to Florida. Because we all know Shawn Michaels wasn't necessarily involved in, backstage stuff. And now Shawn is full-fledged all in doing this with Triple H, which shows that if anybody can turn a 360, it can happen, which is why we always say in this business, never say never. So now it's because Shawn have almost become like your newer version of Vince and Pat Patterson, per se.
Well, and I look at it this way because if you really look at how this has kind of turned out, Shawn Michaels and Triple H during their careers, you talk about guys who were innovators, guys who pushed the envelope, did things. DX was a huge part of the Attitude Era. What propelled them, to supersede and pass WCW and ultimately buying them out. So you look at two guys who have a mind for innovation at the helm now. Whereas Vince, I felt his ego got in the way of a lot of potential. I think because you could have all the ideas in the world that you want. It all starts and stops with Vince. Whatever Vince decides to do, to put out there, you're going to do it. Yeah, you can give him an idea, but at the end of the day, it was whatever Vince said was what was going to happen. And I felt there was a good period of time, and like Mav said, it became hard to watch, like full time. It was so out of touch in what was actually, and that's why when AEW spring loaded, like when they first started, it was huge because everyone was getting tired of the same things that were happening in WWE. And it almost kind of felt like what happened during the Monday Night Wars with WCW. They got complacent. They got, all right, we got getting too comfortable. And now all of a sudden the big time comes in, or a big time company comes in with that financial backing. Oh, shit. Now we got to actually, change up and do actually evolve with the times, because the WWE had gone for so long after WCW without any sort of competition. So when you don't have competition, you do whatever you want, whether it's whether it's good or bad. And I think at that point, Vince, whether it was his old age, we all know the ego, the massive ego on him. That's not going to change. It never has changed. With all of that going in, I think, and then you add the scandals and the bullshit that happened on top of that. As soon as TKO took over, I was like, all right, Vince McMahon's days are numbered.
Yes.
Because a lot of the federal shit that's been going on, the accusations that have been coming out and stuff like that, publicly traded companies, especially one like TKO, no, we're not doing this shit. Okay? You help get it here and stuff like that, but we're not going to be, having our stock drop to $5 a share because you don't know how to act. So get him out of there. Triple H is a proven commodity when it comes to
once
production.
again, fans, for our technical issues. We apologize. We apologize.
But when we talk about now Triple H coming in, Shawn Michaels doing an excellent job in NXT, and Triple H taking over, I feel for me, and this is kind of, I'm going to answer Miz right here, or Mizzle. When I heard that Triple H was taking over pretty much the full-time creative duties, I said, well, AEW better get their big boy pants on, because now they have a fight. Now it's going to be a struggle. Now it's going to be like, all right, now we're going to actually be seeing some matches here that are going to be, it's something to actually get excited for. Now, what I will say throughout this whole thing, and I don't understand it, I don't know how much of it is real, maybe if you guys have seen it or not, the rumor going around that Monday Night Raw might not be on Mondays anymore.
I can't have that. I will not tolerate it. It's Monday Night Raw for a goddamn reason.
The longest reigning episodic television show on Monday history. You're going to move it to a Tuesday or a fucking Thursday?
January 11th, 1993.
1993 at 8:57 p.m. and they were marketing that extra 3 minutes like a motherfucker, man. I remember that. I remember those days well. for like 10 years, they were doing 8:57 coming up.
And the Macho Man Randy Savage.
But at that point, it kind of goes to me going like, with all the excitement of Triple H taking over and all the potential that could happen, that's a real quick fucking way to derail it by moving Raw to Tuesdays or Thursdays.
It kind of like it throws everything into like out of whack. What are you gonna do with NXT? Are you gonna move them off of Tuesdays? Are you gonna put them on Wednesdays? Are you gonna move them to whatever? Like, how are you going to mitigate the other programming on WWE if you're going to take Raw off of the day that got people engaged in the first place? I mean, is this only going to be during the football season? Is this going to be for what? Because
I think it had something to do. I think it had something to do with that, and I don't know, again, because I don't know much about TKO. To be completely honest, I don't know much about that company. I don't know where, how far they've gone or how many years they've been around, or I don't know that information.
Ari Emanuel's like the head guy of TKO, like above everybody else. Ari Emanuel is the guy for TKO right now.
So then they should know. Moving it. Look, Monday Night Raw has outdone Monday Night Football plenty of times.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about, we can't compete with Monday Night Football. We can't compete. I'm sorry, the last few years of Monday Night Football have been like Thursday Night Football. Okay, you don't need to watch with all these matchups and stuff like that have been coming up.
Especially since ESPN has taken over the mantle. Now, it was competition back when it was still on ABC, which I think one of the biggest mistakes Monday Night Football ever did was leave ABC. But of course, ABC Sports not being its own entity, and then since merging with ESPN and Disney was one of the biggest mistakes it's ever made, because you would wish that ABC would once again would have their own banner. In the case of Raw, since it is with Universal / aka NBC, here's something I would do. Why not put Monday Night Raw on NBC? Have it live on one of the big major networks.
They used to put it on Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC.
And you just led to my point, because they were talking about having some live events on NBC, and I am all for bringing back Saturday Night's Main Event, the music, the intros with the interviews, and everything. Because
it would make sense. It would make sense. They have a deal with Peacock. They don't have the WWE Network anymore. They're all on Peacock. So it would make sense for them to go to NBC.
And that's another good point, too, because you have the streaming aspect of it. WWE has Peacock. AEW has rumors of going to Max. With all of that going on, there's so much more to it now.
Supposedly starting next year, all the AEW pay-per-views are going to Max. That's the rumor. Nothing is official, but I'm just saying, if AEW was to do that to get off of Bleacher Report, that would definitely help them in subscriptions, and definitely would also help and enhance their brand. I'm all for that move personally, because, don't get me wrong, some movie theaters do like to show the pay-per-views, which I'm all for, but, some people don't have access to Fight TV. Some people don't have access to Bleacher Report Live. So I'm saying, if they can this deal with Max and have their pay-per-views on there, it will enhance Max subscriptions for sure. And like I said, it will also enhance the brand, because let's be honest. AEW does put on some good shows, but their pay-per-views are very, very, very.
Yeah, with their pay-per-views, it's been like the first few years. Their pay-per-views have been can't miss. You got to watch. Unless if you don't watch, you're going to miss something crazy. You're going to miss something incredible. Now,
main event. Give me the.
There you got cut up. But now with AEW going to Max, I thought them going to Max is a good idea because of the content that they do, because of the quote unquote graphic language, and with Christian on live TV. Luckily they have a delay, and they had to do a delay because MJF likes to do what he likes to do.
No, it's Mox's fault. It's entirely Mox's fault. I guarantee it. There is no way MJF was at fault on this one. I'll give it to him.
So because AEW knows they're on a delay, and things that they say can get bleeped out, they won't get in any trouble. You have segments like Christian and Edge in the middle of or Rated R superstar Adam Copeland in the middle of the ring, and Chris or Cage hugging him and going, "Go fuck yourself." You know?
So good. It was so perfect.
So with Max, because I know the pay-per-views, they cuss on the pay-per-views. I've heard Max, drop F-bombs, and shit is like I don't know how you say, how people whine like connoisseurs, like just something that feels good off the tongue, so
He has a
for
je ne
that.
sais quoi about it.
Yeah, it's just, so going to Max, it allows, and I was wondering if they're going to do their pay-per-views on Max, there's not going to be much of a difference in content. Because the same content that they did with language and everything in pay-per-views, they can do on Max. What my question was going to be, because I saw this rumor going around too, there may be some trouble in paradise over on the Turner Broadcasting Network, for TNT, and the numbers are not matching quite right, and there's being discussions of moving to another network for AEW. And then that rumor sparked, well, if they're going to make that deal with Max for their pay-per-views, why not stream your shows on Max as well? Because I look at it this way. How many people nowadays, honest to God, watch cable television?
The issue with that is when it comes to advertisers, they need to have a primetime TV presence. And but you're right, because they do a lot of the grittier stuff, and they've been able to do a lot more in terms of less censorship, in terms of putting on the show that they want, rather than having to pull the company line,
Replicate
which is what
WWE.
WWE's replicating what WWE was doing. They don't do that because they're not WWE. And I think that I think the issues with Turner is more of an internal thing, of course, with CM Punk being fired. And I mean, if Collision was created specifically for CM Punk, let's not forget that.
And now Bryan Danielson is taking it over as his own.
And I think that with the way, I don't think there's much wrong with Turner and AEW right now, ratings wise, probably, but I think they can pick that up pretty easily. The problem is that Saturday night on TNT is not has never been a good time for anybody, I think.
Kind of like I looked at Collision like fucking Thunder.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at Collision. It's like WCW Thunder.
But I think they could do better with putting Collision on Max than Dynamite. I think Dynamite should definitely stay on TBS. I like the way they have everything going on Dynamite. They could still do 2 hours of Collision every week and do it just like they did NXT, just like WWE did NXT. And
putting it on the WWE network, and at that
exactly
time.
Yeah, like that I think that's good competition right there. But I think I'm not privy on anything in terms of Turner having any issues with AEW at this point. I've only heard good things coming out of that. But I could be wrong. I'm a little biased. I mean, God, I'm wearing an Acclaim shirt, for God's sakes. But I don't see. I think that with everything coming from, with the way AEW does their shit with Ring of Honor, they got Ring of Honor, they got New Japan, they got AAA, they got all these other wheels moving. I don't feel Mizzle just said it too. Rampage should also go on Max for sure. That's a good time to put up on a different day than Friday for sure. But I think with everything going on with AEW in terms of the business side goes, I think business is going very well for them. I feel that their international audience with Fight TV going with their live feeds, I think that plays into it as well. I don't think that Turner has. I don't think the Turner deal is as big a priority until until Dynamite's affected. And right now, Dynamite is probably the best it's ever been. It's the highest rated program on TBS right now. It's definitely one of the premier shows on Olive Turner. So I don't think Dynamite would go anywhere. If anything, they would have to move Collision and Rampage to different days. But yeah, putting them on Max would be perfect. And I brought up my Acclaim shirt specifically so the one they're not doing the scissoring, just to be different. So,
but I mean, but with AEW, I look at them going, even if they did, because I'm sure TNT globally and stuff like that, because a lot of the stuff that they do with Ring of Honor, with New Japan, that's part of the reason why their international reach is where it's at, because of all these collaborations with, top companies like that, like New Japan and Ring of Honor. And you mingle them, the Ring of Honor World Championship being defended on AEW and all that. It just, there's a lot to it. Going, I don't know if TNT has enough reach for AEW's comfort. Now, like you said, they could kind of almost break it into different channels, different streaming services, stuff like that, if they want to. They can leave Dynamite on TNT, but Rampage goes, either on Max or maybe even a different channel. Because if I'm not mistaken, SmackDown's not even on the same channel as Raw.
Yes, it is.
So, it is on the same channel now. I remember there used to be a time where it wasn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they recently
I remember there was a little
just
time
moved it to
period
USA recently. Yeah, it's because the deal with Fox, I think, expired, and they just went ahead and moved it over. I think that was a TKO decision too, to move it over because they have such the strong Universal deal going on. But yeah, they moved that. I think that was super recent. Like I want to say September. Like late September.
And to be honest, that's probably a good thing, because when they went to FS1 for SmackDown, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And you started to see it. FS1 wanted a lot of say in what was going on who was champion, on who, who's getting put on the shows, probably a little too much especially for guys like Vince, who just let us do what we're going to do and get back the fuck off. You're just here for us to, put TV numbers and stuff like that. But FS1 wanted way more pull than Vince was willing to give. And I think willing to give with TKO, because they probably saw it from afar going, yeah, this is a bad business decision. It's nobody knows about FS1 exactly. The ratings for SmackDown on FS1 were asinine. So that
doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah, I don't blame TKO whatsoever for pulling them from there and putting them on the same network as Raw. But again, now we're getting in this point in time where the fans are kind of
why they put the damn baseball
the fans have been making me laugh, because there's so much tribalism in professional wrestling. It's a little uncomfortable and weird how it's gotten to this point. But because you got WWE fans have been shitting on Jade Cargill forever, and now that she's with WWE, oh my God, we got Jade Cargill. Oh, she's gonna be a top superstar in the company. She could be.
Oh my God!
They went from she couldn't lace up, Charlotte Flair's boots, to now she's gonna be a top in the. It's like, dude, if you're gonna stick with how you feel about somebody, stick with that. Don't switch up just because they changed up companies. But now with Jade Cargill, and I wanted to.
That's just
obviously. But with Jade Cargill, she's now in her being in WWE now, I feel was the best thing for her because, and this is no knock on the women
I
in
agree,
AEW.
because she,
This is no knock whatsoever on the women of AEW, but the women's division in AEW is not anywhere near as strong as the WWE's women's division. And what Miz will put on her, what Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair could do with Becky Lynch, with Charlotte Flair, with Rhea Ripley, now with it just there's so many different matchups that you can do with her, and with the best facilities, the best coaches, the best all that. Jade Cargill can turn into.
but at the same time, she is
Go ahead.
very green.
I don't think she's
green. She's not as
I don't
green
think
as
she's
you
that
would think.
green though. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think she's.
I
When she first started out, for sure she was green. But now it could. Now I could be wrong. I don't even think she ain't going to NXT. She's straight up into the main roster.
she's a SmackDown girl.
That would
Yeah, so
so you think it would benefit her if she did not do a run on NXT first and just have her straight go to the main roster?
No,
Because,
going to the main roster for her is probably the best move because it still kind of shows the for lack of a better word that's crossing my head, like the strength of like the fuck, I'm missing the term, but her coming straight into the main roster on SmackDown instead of going through NXT shows in a way the WWE universe that this girl's the real deal. She doesn't need to go through developmental real quick before she comes here. This is a real deal person who's going to come in and actually make some noise. And I think for her character, for her development, I mean, could she have gone to NXT and possibly, broken Asuka's record as champion? Could have. But I'd much rather see her try and do that with the SmackDown's Women's Championship than the NXT Championship at this point. It would be more legitimate if she did it that way.
I think that with Jade Cargill going to WWE, I think I could see her, as much as I expect her going to SmackDown, I could still see her showing up on Raw. I mean, Cody Rhodes.
The way things have been going lately, I wouldn't be surprised to see her making appearances on NXT. Fucking everybody's going to NXT and showing up at this point. Even John Cena's on NXT. So there's definitely room for it.
What's funny is that she doesn't. She probably is maybe a little green still, but I feel like with her AEW experience, going up against everyone that she went up to in AEW, it gave her a lot of experience in terms of not only performing in front of a big crowd, but also maintaining that superstar status. When she's coming to the ring, she has that presence about her that really worked for her in AEW. And going to WWE now, showing up on the main roster, I think that with everything going on, I think that Jade Cargill is going to be one of the best acquisitions they could get. And when it comes, and you're right, when it came to the tribalism, you saw them turn on them pretty quick. Change their tune pretty quick as soon as she got in, and it always seems to be that way. It always seems to be, oh, this person used to be in WWE, now they're in AEW. Okay, they're dead to me. They're traitors and all that shit. That's yeah. But I think that I think now they're going to see what a homegrown talent from AEW is going to, and see how they're going to do when it comes to WWE, when it comes to getting to that main spot and showing up on the main roster exactly as you would expect someone of her caliber to be. She could do very well. She's going to have that WrestleMania moment. And my God, and Mizzle brought it up earlier. Her and Rhea would be great, but Jade Cargill and Charlotte, ooh, that's a match I want to see.
To be honest, and Mizzle actually brought it up as well. Her and Bianca Belair at WrestleMania.
That'll be good.
Would be because and this is my personal opinion, I think Bianca Belair is like the Shawn Michaels of the women's division when it comes to WrestleMania moments. She puts on great performances after great performances after great performances every time she steps into the ring at WrestleMania.
But look at this. And how many times have the women stolen the show with their matches on the pay-per-view? A lot of times it's the women that have put on the best matches on the whole entire card.
And Bianca is part of those matches.
She has
just
the storytelling by the women alone.
In both companies.
I think no, I definitely think with Bianca Belair and Jade, I think sure the Jade Cargill and Charlotte Flair, like everybody that's like, you know, the big pay-per-view numbers and everything else like that. But here's why I say it's not. Charlotte Flair, as great as she is, she's probably not going to be here another 5-10 years.
No.
Okay. She's already been here a long period of time, going on 15 women's world. They're literally trying to make her father, you know, for the women's division. That's what they're trying to do.
That's facts.
When it comes to performance, talent, I think you would get a 10 times better match. And I don't say that lightly. A 10 times better match having Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair than you would Jade versus Charlotte. I think Jade versus Charlotte would be, I don't want to say boring because that'd be taking away from how they are as performers, and I don't want to take away from that. So boring is not the word that I want to use. But I'll tell you right now, Jade versus Bianca, that gets the excitement. Like, holy shit. Because the power aspect in both of the women. Bianca Belair is pound for pound the strongest woman in all of WWE, probably in all of women's wrestling. Jade Cargill is up there in strength, just as strong, just as athletic. So those two, the strength, the athleticism, going at it with each other at WrestleMania, oh man. For whatever title, whether it be Raw or SmackDown, oh my God. I feel that not only would steal the show, that should main event the show.
Yeah.
It would be Steamboat Savage women's style, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel that you're right. I think that Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, I think that match would definitely be a WrestleMania match. Whereas a match with Charlotte would be like a Survivor Series or a Backlash or one of the other pay-per-views. It'll still be good. It's still going to be a great match. But then when it comes to like scheduling it out, I would not put that match at WrestleMania ever.
Another reason why it's not that I don't want to see them go at it, because I feel like that would be a great match. It's just, I know what they're going to do because they did it to fucking Asuka.
Yes.
There is no reason why Asuka should have lost to Charlotte Flair at that first WrestleMania that they went against each other. That undefeated streak should have kept going through that WrestleMania. But Charlotte Flair, they had to give her the belt. She's always that one she's almost Triple H-ish back in the day, just burying people because she knows that she can. it's kind of one of those, like, I don't want to see her go against Jade because I'm afraid that they're going to bury Jade. I'm afraid that they are going to do something with that program that's just going to, it's just wipe whatever Jade's credibility completely gone. They can have those matches, but when we're talking about like everything on the line, WrestleMania moment.
So let me ask you this question.
I don't want to see Charlotte and Jade. I want to see Bianca and Jade. That's what I want to see.
Let me ask you this question and just let me get your thoughts on. Let me get your thoughts from this from both of you. So, obviously, the payoff would be Bianca and Jade at WrestleMania. But let me ask you this. Do you build it up the same way you build up Steamboat and Savage? Now hear me, because remember, the only time Steamboat and Savage faced each other was at WrestleMania 3. They never had a televised match until the pay-per-view. What I'm saying is, you build it up almost kind of like Sting and Hogan for Starrcade 97, but you build it up with those two to where, yeah, you can have face-to-face interviews, but they don't get physical with each other until they get in the ring at whatever WrestleMania it is, just to really, really build it up and have the huge payoff. Now, I don't know if it would work today per se, but just something I want. It's just something I wanted to pick your minds about because because obviously it might be the biggest gate for as far as a woman's match in the history of WrestleMania. I'm just saying,
I definitely think you're onto something there. That could definitely be, because if it's one thing to kill a build-up, it's to keep putting them against each other in matches and different stipulations and stuff like, oh yeah, they fought each other like 7 times before they actually fought each other for the payoff at WrestleMania. It's like, no, I like where you're going with that. Having they're going their own 2 ways, fighting their own people, but in that process, they have not taken their eyes off of each other. And then you go to an almost moment at the Royal Rumble. They're both in at the Royal Rumble, and you have that face-off where everybody in the crowd is like, oh shit, we're about to see, like, we're going to see it. And then, them getting separated and either Bianca gets eliminated or so, because I think Jade's going to win the Royal Rumble at this point. I think even her getting, her getting there now and stuff like that with everything that they've been promoting, ESPN, the first to report, and all this other kind of, the build up for her, I think WrestleMania is completely in the future. She will be in the co-main event at WrestleMania 40.
Hey, Josh, bit of inside baseball. Can you do me a favor? Can you just not get in my head about this? That would be great, because I absolutely see the classic story of winning the Rumble and going against the champion at WrestleMania to get that belt. Bianca Belair should most definitely be the champion going into that. The main thing that's going to kill that momentum is if you make it a 3-way match with anyone else. Keep it strictly with one-on-one. Yeah, yes. Keep it one-on-one. Keep it strictly Jade and Bianca, and use that build up like you would have done for just about any Royal Rumble winner that went up and won the belt, except for John Cena, of course. But having that sort of having that sort of build, I think will grab fans in many ways that a lot of us have grown up to see. And that's what Royal Rumble does. That's the thing that Royal Rumble does. It sets up WrestleMania. It sets up the ongoing build for such a big event, and anything that's been built up to then only gets enhanced. And I think that with Jade winning the Rumble, I think that's going to be the culmination of everything that she's gone through since AEW, since going over, since getting signed and everything. It would be perfect for her. And I think as far as opponents go, Bianca will be that huge, that perfect opponent for her in terms of strength, in terms of ability, and in terms of holding their own in the ring more than just about anyone. No offense to anyone in AEW, but like more so than she's ever been in a match before. And I love that she's natural enough to be at that level.
And that's what I was thinking. Like with Bianca, it's almost because even if Jade is still a little bit of green, Bianca is good enough to be able to pick up the slack. You know, where Jade might be lacking. Yeah, you know, so where she might be lacking, Bianca can help that out. I have no problem. I have no doubt in my mind, especially on the biggest stage of them all, where Bianca Belair has outperformed every women's wrestler the last 5-10 years. In my opinion, she's put on better matches than any of them. Even the main event that had Becky Lynch holding up both the titles, Bianca has way outperformed those matches. So that's what I'm saying. I have no doubt in my mind. You put Bianca Belair, who's the Shawn Michaels of the women's division, with Jade Cargill, who is now going to be a powerhouse, of course. That's you talk about box office. Yeah, you talk. This is one of those moments because if you guys pay attention, we do another show, the All Pro Jaffos Sports Podcast, every Tuesday and Fridays at 7 p.m. We get our shit listened to and taken from us. ESPN and SportsCenter, all of that. I know they're listening. They run with our shit a lot of the time. This would be one of those situations. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn if anybody hears this and puts it to fruition because that's what I want to see. That's exactly what I want to see. This whole storyline of the build-up, they don't touch each other, like Dub said. The whole Royal Rumble culmination. See, I'm getting just antsy and excited just thinking about the possibilities of what it could be.
Give me a little old school WWF, like it was when the Mega Powers exploded. They didn't touch each other until WrestleMania 5. Give me that. I mean, give me Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold. I mean, yeah, Shawn Michaels gives them a couple of super kicks, but they don't get physical until WrestleMania 14. Give me
WrestleMania 6. Give me Hogan and Warrior. Give me something that's going to be a guaranteed match, and make it so that you build it up over the next month or two before April. So 3 months up until WrestleMania coming, and you make a program out of that. Don't have them fight. Have them guest commentate each other's matches, but have Jade win that Rumble, so that way you set up that main event at WrestleMania. That's going to be your hour 2 main event, and then you're going to be able to push that forward and make it the biggest wrestling storyline that WWE has ever put on for the women's division. And it's not only are you going to attract the WWE fans, you're going to attract all the women's wrestling fans. You're going to get the AEW fans into it. You're going to get a lot of people to see a match that big on the card to someone that has been such a naturally grown wrestler. As much as you want to talk about Jade Cargill's background, as much as people will bring it up, as far as wrestling ability goes, Jade Cargill has been the most natural athlete in that ring. And I could put her up against many others. I would put her up against China. I would put her up against Wendy Richter. A lot of the old school for Medusa. That. She is on the shoulders of giants at that point.
You know who she reminds me of? And this just kind of popped into my head. And it popped into my head because of what you said, her being, this was like a whole natural thing for her. She made it look. She learned it, and she was a natural at it.
She was so fast. She took on that quick. It was great.
That's Sir Randall Keith Orton-esque.
Yes.
Right there.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
So you gotta. Now you're telling me we have a Shawn Michaels comparison and a Randy Orton comparison in the women's division going at it. Oh my goodness, fucking gracious! Give me my money now.
Here's all I asked for. Here's all I asked for. This is all I asked for. If it does come to fruition at WrestleMania, I don't care if it's WrestleMania 40. I don't care if it's WrestleMania 41. This is all I ask for. Let them have the 1 hour dance. Let them have let them have the 1 hour dance.
Probably wouldn't want to go that far. That might be a little bit too much.
But if I can't get that, give me at least 45. Give me that.
I'd go half hour, but yeah, I mean, a long match, nonetheless, a long match. Yes, have it be a long match. Have her gain that sort of more ability, because as much as she,
how long did Steamboat and Macho Man go at it for?
God,
they went at it for about what, 35 minutes, 45 minutes.
Just because in that match there were so many near pinfalls. If you can give me that with Bianca and Jade, near fall after near fall after near fall, and then you give me a clean ending, because you cannot build this up. You can't give me a dusty finish. I don't need a dusty finish. You give me a dusty finish. The fans will let you know how they feel. I don't need a dusty finish.
I agree with you, because every time they do that shit, especially at WrestleMania, which is supposed to be the culmination where every storyline that's been put into place, WrestleMania is where all of those storylines get finished, and then Monday, the next fucking night, we start anew. You are not supposed to, at WrestleMania, like Dub said, give me a goddamn dusty finish. Because nobody wants that. Nobody fucking wants that at WrestleMania.
No.
Leave the dusty finishes to Baron Corbin. Let's just do that. I don't. You can put it on anyone else. Keep it on Baron Corbin. He deserves to get his on that.
But yeah, no. It needs to be a clean finish. It needs to. But I mean, what the reality of it is going to be is, though. And let's be real. We love the idea. It's a dream match, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. But what's really going to happen is probably going to be Flair and Jade. It's probably going to be Charlotte and Jade at the main event. And now here's where the conversation of what we had of Vince no longer being here kind of comes into the play, because now, if Vince was still here, you can guarantee Charlotte's going to take the win, and it's going to be like almost like a slap in the face to AEW type of thing, because that's how Vince works.
Mm-hmm. He's very petty.
I'm going to take your top talent. I'm going to boost them up to where you think, oh shit, they have a chance, and then I'm going to bury her in front of all of you. That's exactly what would end up happening. But with Triple H, we might have something different. We could have, Jade and Charlotte, but Jade might come out on top with Triple H at the helm, especially if the story's right.
But that's the difference with Triple H. Triple H is a wrestler's kind of booker. And when it comes to Triple H, he's always booked NXT, he's booked Raw, he's booked SmackDown, he's booked them like indie shows, if you notice. He's booked them really well, because he understands that it's not just about storyline, it's about ability. And that's why you've seen so many great matches under his belt since taking over for Dusty, since becoming a head a head writer for anything. He's put himself in that position to where he can produce a show and make it real, make it feel like it's a true competition, because that's what at the end of the day, that's professional wrestling. It's a perceived competition towards titles that can get people more money, more recognition, and more exposure than they've ever experienced in their lives, because it's always been like that. Whereas you're right. If it was Vince McMahon doing it, Vince McMahon has had a documented history of not putting over anyone that he did not create in WWE, with the only exceptions being Booker T and Eddie Guerrero. That's
why. Why do you think Dusty never won a title?
Exactly.
Never won the WWE Championship. Why? He's an NWA WCW guy. That's why he's never put over.
The
pettiness is real.
They put so much build on him. They put so much vignettes on Dusty, and yet he comes in. He got what? A tag title. He didn't even get a tag title win. He didn't get an Intercontinental title win. He was only there for a year and a half. It was really bad. Like they did not treat him well over there at first, But everybody remembers Dusty Rhodes.
But even then, he was still just as over as he was when he was still in the NWA, because again, I mean, yeah.
But that goes to show you the pettiness of Vince McMahon. He doesn't give a fuck how over you are. How he feels about you is at the end of the day what's gonna happen.
Well, I mean, look at it like this, and I brought this up, and people gave me the stink eye, but okay. If you go back to the old Saturday Night's Main Event, not the dubbed over versions on Peacock, but if you listen to the original, I'm serious. If you listen to the original audios of Saturday Night's Main Event, when JYD had his run in the mid-'80s, okay, some of his pops were louder than Hulk Hogan's. And we're talking about this is Hulk Hogan in his apex peak of Hulkamania right at the start of it. But you go through and you watch, JYD's pops are just as big, if not bigger, than Terry Jean Belair's. And of course, we all know JYD couldn't stay off the white girl, which is why he got bigger and bigger as the years went on. I love Sylvester Ritter. God rest his soul. Love me some JYD, but obviously because Vince went there sometimes with the whole racial thing, for lack of a better term. But JYD was just as over, if not more, or he was right there neck and neck with Hulk Hogan. Like I said, people think. I said no. If you watch the old Saturday Night's Main Event, not dubbed over, in its original airing date, like it was on NBC, you can hear how so over JYD was. It's ridiculous.
And for those of you who don't know who JYD is, he's talking about the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, and even now, if you want to bring it up to exactly, bring the thump. And if you want to bring it up to more recent examples, Cody Rhodes, when he came out at WrestleMania, that massive reception he got, people watched AEW. The people in that crowd watched him in AEW. They sang along with him. He's coming out full regalia, full Homelander outfit. He came out and fucking was the best thing going. And it's not only because he used to be in WWE. Not many people remember his time in WWE. Yeah, that was something else.
No.
But
more people remember him for Stardust than in his time for WWE.
Exactly. And to see him coming out now after his mediocre time at AEW, unfortunately, to now, like, his New
Japan and his New Japan and Ring of Honor stuff is stuff fantastic. I know he helped put AEW on the map and help make the late Brody Lee, God rest his soul, make him a credible TNT champion by putting him over in a squash match. But I mean, Cody's apex was his Ring of Honor and New Japan run, and now his Part 2 run, per se, of his upcoming. But real quick, from one leaving and coming to the other, we have to talk about what happened back 11 days ago in Seattle, Washington, when one Adam Copeland came and joined the ranks of All Elite Wrestling, came out to a huge pop. There was the back and forth of was he, won't he, will he, won't he? Well, he did. And I mean, it's quite obvious. We all know that eventually his last run wanted to be with his best friend in the whole wide world, Christian, which right now Christian is at his peak with his tremendous heel run. This is some of the best work that Christian has ever done in his whole
everybody's father's
career.
Doing.
Yeah. I mean, if he could have had a heel run like this in his WWE tenure, who knows what could have happened. But he is doing some of his best heel work right now.
It makes me wonder, honestly, because of what he's doing in AEW. I'm like, where the fuck was this in W? But again, the reins are so much tighter in the WWE of what you can say and what you can do. To whereas Tony Khan is looking at the guys in AEW going, I trust y'all's ability to put out a good product. And Christian is going out there and killing it right now. Absolutely killing it. But when Edge or Adam Cole, I say it's going to be a time period. When Adam Copeland came into AEW.
But we still know who he is. I mean,
we know who he is. But so when he came in, first things first, it was fucking obvious that they were going to do it. I'm sorry. You couldn't have made it any more obvious that Edge was there than putting the TNT Championship as the main event to close out the show. When you had Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay and all the, you have all these other matches that probably could have main evented that card, but it was so obvious that the TNT Championship is main eventing the Wrestle Dream.
Well, not just that.
I wonder why.
Well, not just that, because it was in Seattle. That's where Darby Allin's from. So the hometown push.
Sure. So they could make it seem like, oh yeah, they were trying to do it for the hometown.
Again, you're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
I think they could have done it. I think they could have done it a little bit better and a little less obvious. But other than that aside, I was a little surprised when he came out to Metalingus.
Yeah.
With Beth Phoenix, his wife, saying that you think you know him, which I thought was really cool. Came out to that song. I was like, wow, okay. They're coming out with the same type of moniker, but then I've always been an extremely huge fan of Edge. He is by far like top 2, top 3 wrestlers for me of all time, because I loved his heel work, the rivalries that he had with Taker and Cena and everybody. It just
his character has evolved so many times to where he's one of
the most decorated champions in WWE history. And when it comes to tag teams, individual titles, like you name it, Edge has held it, and held it multiple times. So seeing him in this light, I look at it this way, going, Edge on AEW, that's a great move for AEW, because now they have a real. You have Big Show, you have Mark Henry, you have some guys, veteran pieces here and there have been in the WWE and stuff like that, but none of them have the championship pedigree that Edge has.
No.
And with that, with the experience that he has, and now him with Christian, the amount of ideas that they can come up with together to be able to help bolster the tag team division, to help, with his knowledge is going to spill over in that AEW locker room. And if any one of them are fucking smart, they will pick his brain until they can't anymore.
And that is the key. And that is the key statement you just made right there. If the talent is smart enough, and that says it all right there. Because Tony. Yes, at times, Tony needs to act like more of a promoter than a fan at times, but also at times, there is good and bad. There is good and bad to Tony Khan. Tony Khan absolutely adores and gives the legends the utmost respect, and picks their brains and whatnot. But also at the same time, Tony Khan tries to,
because he wants to better himself as well.
Yeah, and Tony at times likes to be the talent's best friend, which sometimes you can't do that when you're trying to be in business, especially
when some of them have creative control.
Yes,
and are VPs of the company.
Yeah, to which you don't want to give everybody creative control, because obviously we know what has happened before. Ask Gary Bischoff what happens when he gave everybody creative control and booking prowess. With that said, definitely, if the talent is young enough to pick his brain, and because
to be honest, I don't think youth should have anything to do with it, because even a lot of the guys who have been in the wrestling business for 15 plus years that have not made it to the WWE. Well, now you have somebody here who has been in the wrestling business for almost 30 years now.
30 years, yeah.
So, regardless of what you think, you cannot be an independent vet and think you're better than Adam Copeland. Good enough to where I don't need to listen to what he has to say. I don't need to. Well, obviously you do, because you've been stuck in the indies your entire career and haven't made the next fucking move. This guy might be the guy to help you get to that next step, but because you've been an indie darling for fucking 20 years, you don't feel like anybody can tell you shit. That's where I'm thinking,
you don't think Edge is not going to give somebody a reference over there in Connecticut talking about, hey, when this contract is up, he's get this guy because he's got the goods. Okay.
Oh,
you
yeah.
Don't think you don't think because MJF has promoted the bidding war for 2024. You don't think if he enhances Maxwell Jacob Freeman, you don't think that Adam's not going to tell Paul, hey, you better get you might need to make him an offer he can't refuse if you're trying to get him, because a lot of people under his tutelage.
You think Edge is going to be a mole? Damn.
No, not a mole. But I'm just saying.
Cherry picking the AEW roster. Hey, Triple H. I'm just letting you know. I'm scouting the talent down here. Trust me. I'll let you know who's good, who's not, who you need to sign up.
Well, I'm not taking it that far, but I'm just saying we obviously know that he wants one more run with Christian, because obviously that's the person he wants to retire with. He's made that abundantly clear more than once. Like, he will only let him retire him, and vice versa. Maverick,
but here's my question to you.
Okay. With
that being said, wanting to retire Christian, the last match, wanting to be with Christian, and everything else like that. Does that happen in AEW? Or does that in a couple of years?
Before I answer that, let Maverick say what he was going to say, the voice of SCW. And actually, tell our viewers what do you do in SCW and how can we watch SCW for our viewers?
Oh, yeah. I'm not privy to the TV deal just yet, but we are on YouTube, South Bay Championship Wrestling. I am the lead commentator there. You'll hear me calling all the matches for them. Our next show is November 11th in Santa Clara at the SES Portuguese Hall. If you guys are down, November 11th, I'm excited for it. Right now, the only match announced is Brooke Havoc defending the SCW Women's Championship against Reiha Tehaka. If you guys want to check that out, I highly recommend you guys get tickets. It's a great show. But all of that goes back to exactly what Kevin Nash said about Will Ospreay. Who have they ever beat? If all these indie legends going on and coming in and all that, who the fuck did these guys beat? You know, I mean, when it comes to Edge being in AEW, I think it's a huge move for them because it's just like Jericho. You have the experience, you have the ability, you have the longevity that Adam Copeland has had since '96. You know, of course, Jericho is much longer than that, but I think with Copeland's sort of ability to have those main events, to hold those championships multiple times, to be as controversial as that throughout the entire Attitude Era, I think that not Edge, but Copeland, I think that his I think that his style of performance will greatly enhance AEW internally for like the mentorship, but also provide even more great moments that AEW has had. And they've been writing and that's the thing about AEW that I truly love about the company, where WWE will call in guys like John Cena and Undertaker. They're going to call in guys from outside the company who used to be there. AEW doesn't have to rely on that. AEW has brought in some great indie talent since day one.
Yes, they have.
I mean, look at Swerve Scott. Look at Darby Allin. Look at all. Nick Wayne just came in. One of the hottest young talents in indie wrestling history is in AEW now.
And of course, my guy.
Orange Cassidy. I mean,
I'm a huge Orange Cassidy's my guy.
You've never seen an original character you've never seen an original character like Orange Cassidy in any mainstream situation like that. The closest you got was Rob Van Dam, and they couldn't book him for shit in WWE. He was the cool and rad guy.
I don't know how you can't book RVD.
And you see
I don't know how.
Probably because they didn't want to, per se, because he was that damn over.
Exactly.
And so he wasn't the homegrown guy. He's an ECW guy.
Of course.
But in terms of going through the gauntlet of talent that AEW brings in, even their former WWE talent has thrived in AEW and went through and it gives them it shows the complete difference between WWE, even now with the TKO merger, between WWE and AEW. WWE, you have restrictions put on you because you're trying to please the shareholders. You're trying to please TKO and the bookers and all that.
Yes.
Whereas AEW, they'll give you some bullet points. You got a storyline. Let's try and keep it in the storyline. Go over your finish. Don't tell me nothing. Let's go ahead and move forward. And Tony Khan may be a little too involved for my taste personally, but I do think that he should delegate the job a little more. But I think that with the deals going on with New Japan, with him owning Ring of Honor, it's showing that there's a lot more freedom in wrestling than you would expect to see from someone in that position.
So do you think Tony Khan, per se, needs his Pat Patterson, his Jerry Briscoe, his Gorilla Monsoon, so on and so forth? Meaning, not give the whole reins to those guys, but in a sense, be like, you know what? be my right-hand man like Vince had for all those years when he was the main promoter.
I think it's going to be tough for him because I don't see him having that type of ego. I don't see him having that type of. I mean, because Vince had Pat Patterson, Briscoe. He had all those guys, but at the end of the day, they were kind of yes men for him. They kind of did whatever he said, regardless. They can give him a good couple of tidbits here and there. But again, at the end of the day, whatever Vince wanted to do is what Vince wanted to do.
And that's a
Tony.
True statement.
And Tony has, and this is where I'll say, he can get his Briscoe, his Patterson, his Gorilla Monsoon, but they can't be yes men.
Right.
They can't be, Tony, whatever the fuck you want. Go ahead. And I don't think Tony has the ego to be like that. Because from what I've seen from him, he's very much, like you said, gives all the respect to the legends. Almost a friendly atmosphere, a little too friendly. It's not. He doesn't have that authoritative look about him. He doesn't have that very that presence of when he walks into. Look, for the casual, for any regular person on the street, if they were to see Tony Khan, he's just another regular person that they're seeing on the street. At least with Vince McMahon, the way he presents himself, the way he kind of, if you don't know who he is, you could at least look at him and go, he's in some sort of position of power. I don't know what it is, but he's in some sort of position of power. So
and
it's like Tony.
I was going to say with Tony Khan, Tony Khan's a fan. Tony Khan's a mark just like the rest of us. The only difference is the only thing with Tony Khan, he's a mark with money. And at the end of the day, that's every single wrestling promoter for the last 50 years. They're marks with money.
His dad's money. Let's get it. Let's get it.
But money nonetheless. Money nonetheless.
He does have that extra. He does have that extra money coming from a soccer club and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Thank you very much.
His fandom can be looked at to me like it could be that double-edged sword. On one part, it works, because you're in tune with the fandom, you're in tune with the fans. You're seeing what everybody wants and what everybody's expecting, and you're learning from it, and you're pushing forward with it. But then you get too much into the fandom, you become too much of a mark to where you stop thinking about what the business side of it, the repercussions of what the business aspect is going to do.
But I don't put Tony Khan too much to that point because look at what happened. He's looking at it from the outside of WWE perspective. He puts on Forbidden Door. He gave us Wrestle Dream. He's been allowing talent to go to indie companies to keep getting work. So he's connected enough to say, yes, we want to get Zack Sabre Jr. to take on Bryan Danielson for Wrestle Dream. We want Hiroshi Tanahashi coming in to take on MJF. Oh my God, that match, Zack Sabre Jr. Bryan Danielson played out exactly as it played out in my head for like 3 years. Swear to God, so amazing! It was the best match of technical ability I've ever seen.
If you want to watch storytelling and technicality, watch that match. Because as we've been saying for a long time, and Lord knows I have been saying it, what has become a lost art, yes, today's athletes, bigger, stronger, faster, the technologies and stuff, the ring, all that stuff, yes, it's all advanced. But sometimes what has been lacked of and what has been forgotten is the reason why we became fans in the first place. And that has always been the art of telling a story. If you don't have the right dance partner.
Yeah, Bryan Danielson, in my opinion, is one of the best storytelling performers in a very long time.
But the
well,
cool
again,
thing about
he-
AEW, the best part about AEW is that they had multiple matches like that didn't even get limited to the main show itself. What did we get for the kickoff? We had oh God, what was it? We had Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Hook for the kickoff for
The
All In
FTW title, yeah.
for the FTW title. And then most recently we had Eddie Kingston take on Minoru Suzuki for the NJPW Openweight and ROH titles. That match was amazing. So you get you not only can you get matches of that hype going into these matches just taken for granted, but it's not like they're calling in people for one nights, for one shots, like they did with Cena and Taker. You get these quality matches every single week from AEW. That's what puts AEW, to me personally, above WWE, because you can see New Japan matches happening in AEW. You're seeing Bullet Club start to
New
grow
Japan has
again
had more 5-star matches than any other company.
New Japan is known to have some of the hardest hitting matches, the hardest, the best submissions, the hardest hits, the greatest impacts of wrestling, and they do it every week because that is tradition for them. That is their sport.
I mean,
that is how
New Japan is so good that Hulk Hogan had to freaking change his wrestling style. Otherwise, he was going to get ran the fuck out of that building.
But see, here's the thing. People forget, first off, that he was trained by Hiro Matsuda, who is as technical as they come, and plus, he had the knowledge to know that, hey, I have to bring it because, again, as we know, Japanese fans are not as vocal per se as they are here in the States, so you have to be technically sound. But
you
have
have to
reasons
step
for that,
up.
right? Don't they have rules that New Japan shows? Like you can't stand up or something like that. You can't. There's certain points
crowd,
and stuff
yes.
where you
For the crowd, yeah. But when it comes to matches involving New Japan talent in AEW, even if it is a Will Ospreay, Rocky Romero, or anyone like that as well, you see that every one of their opponents from AEW, they step the fuck up. You saw that with Bryan Danielson. He stepped up against Zack Sabre Jr. and put on the best match of his career. You saw that last year when Shingo Takagi came out and teamed up with Darby Allin and Sting. You saw that when you saw that most recently when Eddie Kingston took on one of his heroes with Minoru Suzuki. The passion that a lot of these guys have for the business side, as far as the general sport of professional wrestling, you've seen them step it up and turn up their game, because you know what they want to do is, at the end of the day, they want to have AEW in the G1. They want to have FTR taking on Sonata and Naito for the tag or whoever the New Japan tag champions are right now. They want to see matches like that against AEW people, like IWGP. Yes, my bad. But having that sort of action is going to be amazing, because you know they're going to step it up. That's why I always get hyped for a lot of these matches.
All right, well, before we call it anything, there is one more subject we do have to talk about as soon as JP gets back in here. But, of course, after the debacle again backstage between one Phillip Brooks and the AEW locker room, there was reports speculating that he would show up in his hometown of Chicago for the Survivor Series, but a couple of days ago, or as long as you say, the WWE said that, you know what, it's not going to happen because the bad, unfortunately, outweighs the good. So there will be no CM Punk sighting at the Rosemont Horizon. Yes, I still call it the Rosemont Horizon. I will forever call it the Rosemont Horizon, because that's what I just grew up calling it, the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, Illinois. But there will be no CM Punk signing in the WWE. Has this officially turned into that Phillip Brooks has officially burned all of his bridges, per se, for lack of a better term? And we'll close it out on that.
Ooh. Maverick, you go ahead first.
Oh, you put me first. Oh, you son of a bitch. I think that he has definitely caused too much heat to bring him in completely. And I've said it on Twitter many times. If he did go back to WWE, he would be forever known as the biggest hypocrite in pro wrestling because of the way the pipe bomb went down in 2014, because of the brawl out, because of everything that happened that led to him getting fired. He went, and yet if WWE was going to bring him back in, it would be very bad for the TKO deal, and it would very much cause a massive ripple effect amongst not only the fans but also for TKO in the back. I do not believe that Phillip Brooks will ever see a mainstream wrestling show again until he gets the help that he needs. He needs mental health therapy.
That bad, huh? So
it's very bad.
They say time heals all wounds. But that was the case when he came and showed up at AEW. At this point now, I don't know how much time is going to need for these wounds to be able to heal, because this is the second major company now that he's shown up to that he has just... I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the ego. I don't know if it's some sort of mental disorder, some sort of... I don't know. But for some reason, everywhere CM Punk goes, smoke and fire follow. Because I don't know if he just thinks he's vastly superior in wrestling than anybody else, to where he thinks that, the end all be all should be with him. And it's kind of funny. I see that meme coming up out of nowhere that, being a kid was rooting for CM Punk. Being an adult is realizing that Triple H was right. During that segment that they had, it's because again, that's really what you talk about, a promo that aged perfectly. That was it right there. Because everything that Triple H said to CM Punk during that promo was 100% shoot. No, this wasn't a script. This is him describing how CM Punk is as a person. At the time, we could look at it as, it's just a promo, this, and that. But then when you really look at it, it's go, oh no, Triple H was exposing this man to everybody. Whether they see it or not is up to them, but eventually they will. And now that eventually is here. We're all seeing exactly what Triple H was talking about during that promo. And I used to be, a big fan of CM Punk. I loved what he did. I thought that match with him and John Cena at Money in the Bank was, probably one of the best matches, if not the best match of CM Punk's career. Storylines and everything that went into that. His match with The Undertaker, and this is kind of where it kind of fell off for him, was a little... Yeah, it was good, but it wasn't what it could have been had he been fully invested in it. And now, to go back to your question, has he burned enough bridges? To be honest, I thought he burnt those bridges after the first scuffle backstage with the Young Bucks and everything else like that, where he went on the press conference drinking however many of those fucking little things that he had, aloe drinks. All of that, and working with fucking children, and this is... I thought after that he was done. But then, and this is where it kind of brought Tony's character. He probably thought, hey, let's talk this out with a little bit of forgiveness, being thrown in here. Let's be professional. Let's be men about this. Come on, let's kind of. But then now, and even Tony Khan saying it, feeling that his life, not just his life was in danger. Then, I mean, what else can you say? And like you say, if Triple H were to fucking bring him back for some odd reason, it would backfire on them tremendously. Because not only would it, reflect bad in the storylines and what's being done, the cancer is already there in the locker room. There are already top talents, Seth Rollins being one of them, who are very outspoken on their dislike for CM Punk. And him showing up would do nothing but cause chaos in that locker room.
They did not want him back.
You mentioned Triple H was right. Not only was he right.
Not to cut you off, but real quick, I wouldn't be surprised if before Triple H a couple of days ago made that decision not to bring back CM Punk, that he didn't have a locker room meeting discussing that issue. And I'm sure he probably went to everybody and went like, hey, how do you feel about this? And pretty much everybody in the locker room said, fuck that guy. We're not doing it. I'm not working with him. We're not doing it. And he said, you know what? Fine. If the locker room doesn't want him, why would I want to bring him in here? Why would I just want to basically ruin the show? Because he's just here. Not even that he's in the ring. His presence here is a cancer to this locker room. So it's just, has he burnt all of his bridges? Yeah, and then some. And he pissed on the ashes when it was done. Like that's how bad it is for him right now.
Not only was Triple H right, Eddie Kingston was right, MJF was right. Everyone that he's taken on was right. Mox was right. Like, you cannot be a cancer in a wrestling locker room with that many egos and expect to come back just because you got fired from your last job. You got fired from you quit WWE. You got fired from AEW. You got nowhere else to go back to. You need to straighten the fuck up before you even think about coming to the mainstream ever again. And right now, those bridges need to be mended. You rehashed all that bullshit. Now it's time to get back to it and go back to what you learned as a pro wrestler. Until then, no one's going to take you in.
And he's still got his, his friends. And so FTR is still, a very vocal proponent for CM Punk, having his back and everything else like that. And it kind of starts and ends with them. I haven't really seen, anybody else come out with anything positive to say about, CM Punk other than FTR. But it's only a matter of time before that friendship probably sours and goes, look what happened with Colt Cabana. They used to be inseparable, the best of friends. He even went on talking about, with Vince McMahon in a promo, talking about how it was bullshit that he got rid of Colt Cabana and everything. Like, he was that much. And where are they at now? He's talking, CM Punk's talking shit about Colt Cabana sharing the same bank account as his mom. They may have a good relationship with FTR, or he may have a good relationship with FTR right now, but it's only a matter of time. And I hate to say that out of presumption, but when you look at history and see what's been going on, CM Punk has done nothing for me to think otherwise. He burns bridges for every company. He burns bridges with all the friends, and stuff that he ever made in wrestling, which is hard to do because, we've heard the moniker all the time. If you're making friends, you ain't making money, in that business. So all the friends that he did have are essentially gone and non-existent anymore. His time and hype, it's all his fault. That's why he has nobody else to blame but him. Yet he'll tell you otherwise. He'll obviously tell you that it was somebody else's fault. It was not on him. whether we want to believe it or not, it was not CM Punk's fault. There's no accountability when it comes to Phil Brooks whatsoever. So it does not cease to amaze me, or nor will it cease to amaze me, that not just pro wrestling as a community, as the wrestlers, mainstream, indies, whatever, they're not going to want anything to do with them eventually. And it's only a matter of time, because I've actually seen it start to happen. People are starting to, even the biggest fans, the biggest apologizers for CM Punk, are starting to, all right, fuck, we get it. I can only back up this guy for so long before I start looking like an ass myself. So he's losing friends, he's losing jobs, he's losing fans, and all that in turn, guess what he's going to lose? He's going to start losing money, because of that as well. He's going to be one of those same guys that tries to live off the past, trying to, charge $50 an autograph at, some hole in the wall sports store at a closing down mall somewhere.
Like Virgil.
Like Virgil. Doing his right above the Hollywood Star. Like that. That's what he's going to turn out to be.
Vince McMahon's, to be exact.
Yeah. So it's like that. That's what it's going to turn out to be, because it's just, and it sucks because
he's such a good wrestler.
I'm sure he was. That's the whole thing, and I'm sure you guys are kind of on the same boat as I was during his time, his first run in the WWE. I'm pretty sure most of us were a fan of his work, of what he was doing, and so I'm sure with everything that's going on now, as big of a fans as we were of him, it kind of sucks to be like, there's no other reason why I'm not a fan of you anymore other than you. You made me not a fan of you anymore. Not anybody else's actions. If this would have been that case, go ahead, Doug.
I'm pretty good for the most part separating the person from the character that they portray. I enjoy CM Punk the performer. Phillip Brooks the person, I could care less. Okay, because obviously you need to get help. Hopefully his wife AJ Lee can be like, dear, you need to go get this straight. But that's just how it is. Once you've learned to separate the person from the performer, because it's the performer that draws you in, that makes you a fan, that draws you to this art that is called professional wrestling. And with acting like a spoiled brat per se, and then trying to walk around like your crap doesn't stink, it goes without saying.
Mizzle said, "Oh boy, you said AJ Lee. You brought AJ into the mix."
No. Mizzle is a huge AJ Lee fan. If he was on the show, he would tell you that himself. He loves him some Mrs. Brooks. Let me just tell you.
Oh, she was great. She was great. I loved her. She was an awesome performer.
However, I just think it has played its course. And I just hope that, Phil Brooks can get that help that many other former wrestlers couldn't get because they were too blind to see it. However, we were not expecting to go almost over 2 hours, but, this is what happens when you get wrestling fans talking about the art. We possibly could be here all night. But, again, we were on a long hiatus, but we thank you guys for watching. Our special thanks to Maverick Bertram, the voice of South Beach Championship Wrestling, which again you can catch their South Bay Championship. I'm sorry, but you can catch their SCW anniversary show on November the 11th on YouTube. Maverick, we thank you. JP, as always, we thank you. I'm the Enforcer AA, and we will see you in the ring.